if you enjoy that style of music, make sure to be here Wednesday night. She's going to do a full concert in which, through music, she tells her story. A story of surviving cancer, and a story of God being real in our world. Not some God we talk about, some God we've heard about, some God we've read about. No, a God we have experienced ourselves. So tonight, it's a pleasure to be here. We're super excited to be here. And tonight, I've come to tell you my story. How about that? I want to tell you my story, and I come up with a longbow, bighorn sheep, some furs, and a Bible. And those things, all of those things, they are the story of my life. As I look back now, I can't believe it. I'm 61 years old. I now have grandchildren up in Alaska, and it doesn't seem possible. The first time I met with the church here at Maysville, my goodness, that was more than 25 years ago. And now the building stands there, and we look back. I see smiling faces in the crowd that I've known for those 25 years. What a blessing it is to see you again. But today we're in Lakewood Baptist Church, way down south in Phoenix City, Alabama, better known as L.A., Lower Alabama. We're down in Gatorland, where football is king and bass fishing is right next to it. That's the two things they do there. And you know, as I come this evening, I just wish in some way I could open my heart to you and you could see how blessed I've been since I decided to follow Jesus as my best and only friend. And that's what I want to talk to you about. You see, I didn't grow up in church like most people think. I wasn't a preacher's kid. I wasn't baptized at age 7. I didn't go to church as a child. I didn't have any belief in God of any way. I just kind of grew up on my own out there trying to do my own thing. And as a young man, I saw this incredible movie called Jeremiah Johnson. Right? Jeremiah Johnson, the movie. And I remember that. I still have a copy of it today. I still enjoy watching Jeremiah Johnson. And God used that in such a tremendous way in my life. I saw Jeremiah Johnson, the movie, and it absolutely transformed me. I became like a young person absolutely possessed. All I wanted to do was watch Jeremiah Johnson. All I wanted to do was be Jeremiah Johnson. All I wanted to do was be a hunter, a trapper, fisherman, mountain man. If I could just hunt and fish and trap and live in the mountains, I'd be the happiest man in the world. That was my goal. That was my objective, my dreams. And people would say to me, well, they used to call me Randy. Randy, you know that isn't possible today. You're born 200 years too late to be a mountain man. You got to be reasonable. You've got to think about a real job, do a real something for a living. Oh no, I'm going to grow up. I'm going to be a Jeremiah Johnson, the mountain man. And I mean, that's all I thought about. That's all I read about. That's all I dreamed about. You know, some young people played sports. I didn't play sports. I honed my skills as a trapper and a hunter. And for the first time in my entire life of education in the public school system, they had a class for me. I finally found one class that excited me in school. There was one glorious school class, shop. You know, when you got in high school, you had shop. And what did we build in shop class? One of these. Little did I know at the time that would change the course of my life. I'll never forget the first arrow I saw fly where I wanted it to go. Now, a bunch of them went where I didn't want to go. It took thousands before one went where I wanted it to go. But the first time that arrow flew and it hit where I wanted it to go, that was the day my life was forever changed. You know, I became just consumed with shooting arrows and bows. And believe it or not, back then, I'm old enough to remember when there were not deer anywhere in the country. There weren't any deer. If you saw one, it was miraculous. As a young child, I saw a deer. And I told the kids in school about, I saw a white-tailed deer. They didn't believe me. I had to take them down there. I had to show them the tracks in the mud. Now the young people today are like, deer, you can't avoid them. They run in front of your car. They're everywhere. But in those days, they literally were not deer around. And Illinois decided to have the first ever archery deer season. They didn't open for gun hunting, but they did say if you wanted to shoot a bow and arrow, you could go deer hunting. Oh boy, it was the greatest experience of my life. I was so excited. And my mother, God bless her, she was a saint. She'd get up 4 o'clock in the morning and she'd drive me. I didn't have a driver's license. I was a young kid. I was 14 years old. I was a freshman in high school. She'd drive me out to the woods and leave me out there in the mornings. I'd go deer hunting, and this farmer friend of mine said, come out to my place. He ran a nursery. He said, I got a deer in there, and he's tearing all my trees up. He's rubbing my trees up and down. So I went, and there was a big hole in the ground where they dig the trees out. How many of you ever been in the nursery? See that hole in the ground there, right? So, oh boy, I got down in that hole. I said, I'll sit right here in this hole, and I'm going to get this deer, right? Well, you know, God's good. He's so good to me. Here comes this deer. And this is not just any deer. This thing is giant. I mean, it's a giant monster. He walks right by me, just right past me. Stupidest deer ever. Remember, deer are new. They hadn't been hunted yet. They hadn't figured it out, right? So here comes this deer, walks right past me. Well, everybody, this is a long bow. I'm in a hole with a long bow. I could hide good, but I could not shoot well. I was so panicked. I was so freaked out. I had deer fever so bad, I hardly remember it. But the only thing I remember is I went to shoot the deer. It was just standing there, right in front of me. I pulled back on it, and it looked at me like, what are you doing in that hole, right? What are you doing there? I pulled back on him, man. I was going to zing him. Good. I took careful aim. I let go, and my bottom limb of my bow, it hit the bottom of that hole. And that thing bunked back and hit me in the head. And somehow, miraculously, I looked up, that arrow was stuck right in that deer. I shot him by accident. I'm 61 now. I'll tell you the truth. I accidentally killed him. That story did not come out for years and years. I mean, I killed this deer. It was in the newspaper. It was a big deal. Record book deer killed by a 14-year-old boy with a homemade bow. It was in the newspaper and everything. Oh, you know how it is when you have success as a young person. Oh, that just fueled my fire. Oh, I didn't tell anybody. I said, he'd come by. One shot. See? Right in the middle. So I started becoming possessed. I just lived in the woods trying to find something else that would hold still that I could accidentally hit it. I was the world's worst shot. I mean, I didn't know nothing. I didn't know anything about shooting a bow or nothing. I was terrible. And I'd get all excited, get much fever so bad I couldn't. So I decided, I'm going to get something else. I want to hunt another animal that I can get with my bow. So I looked around for something that stood still and you could shoot at it multiple times until you hit it. Now everybody, you know what that is, right? But bear. You chase a bear up a tree, now you can stand and shoot at him until you get him up there. So I figured, hey, bear up a tree, I could do it. So I saved all my money. I worked like a maniac. And I saved all my money and I hired a guide, Lawrence Edwards. You know, I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. But I'll never forget Lawrence Edwards, the meanest, nastiest man I've ever met in my life. I go up to Canada with him. We're going to go up there, we're going to get a bear. He tells me, you know, guys, how many of you have ever been around anyone who has dogs? Bird dog, hound dog, any kind of dog. Those guys lie. They lie. He drops his dogs on the road. He says, these dogs don't chase deer. These dogs are the greatest dogs. We're going to go down this dirt road and we're going to cut a track where bears come out of here and they're going to tree that bear and we're going to go get it. These dogs of mine, they are broke. You won't believe how good these dogs are. Well, then I believed it. Now I know better, right? So we're going down the road. We're going down there. Oh, man, here comes a moose out of there. Big moose comes out. And he starts chasing the dogs around. Well, the dogs start chasing the moose, and it's on. Off they go through the woods. I never heard language, anything like I heard out of Lawrence Edwards. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to shoot him. Hey, he says, you stay here. And he goes out through the woods. He goes out to the wilderness. I'm back there on the road. Well, he's back there screaming. He's back there yelling, shooting, pow. Screaming, yelling, shooting, pow. I'm thinking, oh boy, this guy's crazy. He's out there shooting, pow, screaming and yelling, pow. I look up, here comes a bear. It's looking back like, what's happening back there? I'm standing in the road. Bow, arrow, bear just walks right by me. He doesn't see me. He's looking. I said, oh, ha, here he comes. Bear, he's like crazy man out here shooting and stuff. He's running. He's getting out of there. He comes by me and he turns in this little trail, little thing there at the side of the road where they logged. I shot about 4 foot over him. I got so scared I couldn't hold my bow straight. The thing come by me right past me. Had my chance, shot over him, missed him. Edwards comes out on the road. And he starts walking down the road. And he's got his dogs and he's mad. He's just in a tizzy. He looks like he's been through a war, right? He's all mad. He comes walking down the road and he stops. Hey, he says, "Do you see a bear?" Nope. What? There's bear tracks right here in the road. Did a bear come out of here? What? No, I didn't see no bear. He looks at me. What you doing with your bow and arrow? Nothing. He looks over, looks around a little bit. Missed him, didn't you? Yeah, I missed him. So he said, well, get your stuff together. We're going to get some fresh dogs out. We're going to treat that bear. We're going to get him for you. We'll get you a bear right here today. We're going to get him. So, boy, we get our gear around there. I change, get all around, get ready to go. Pick up my bow. I take off. Man, me and him, we're chasing him. Them dogs are barking. They're chasing him. They're going through the woods. We're running through the wilderness. I mean, if you've been to Canada, they have woods up there. They go forever, right? And we're chasing that bear. We're chasing him around there. Oh, boy, dogs are barking. And all of a sudden, Lawrence Edwards looks at me. He gives me this funny look. I'm like, what? What? Where are your arrows? Oh, man. I've been chasing a bear for hours. All I got's my bow. I left my arrows at the car. He says, you get yourself turned around and you get back out to that car and get your arrows. We're going to have this thing treed in a minute. Just listen for the dogs and come back to the tree. Okay, I said, okay. You know how you are when you're young and stupid and scared? You don't say stuff like, where's the car? So, boy, I took off, right? I'm headed back to the car. I'm moving and shaking. I'm going back to the car. I'm about to get me a bear. I'm running back to the car. Where'd that huge lake come from? I didn't swim across any lake to get back here. This lake is like giant. I mean, I can't even see across it. I can't see either end of it. Then you get that funny feeling. That was the first time in my life I really knew what it meant to be lost. Friends, I was lost. I'd screwed myself around. And I didn't know at that point in your life that if you're right-handed, you just go in a circle, around and around. If you don't have a compass and you try to walk, you just go in a circle, round and round. Don't believe me? Just try it. Just go out there and try it without a compass. You just walk around and around in a circle. I come out that lake about the third, fourth time. It's starting to get dark. I don't have no arrows. And we just chased a bear in here. I'm 16 years old. And I mean, I'm lost as a goose in a snowstorm for real. But I watched Jeremiah Johnson. And I knew what to do, right? So it's real mossy up there. Kind of peat mossy up there. Real mossy up there. So I dug down in that moss. I made me a nice snuggly place all down in that moss. Got all down in there. Covered myself up as good as I could. I didn't sleep a wink. I mean, I was scared stiff. I've never been so scared in my whole life. I was lost. I mean, lost. Woke up the next morning, kind of funny feeling. Kind of felt like, not like myself, something funny feeling. So I pull my shirt up. You know what the best bait in Canada is? Leeches. They do not come off if you go in the water and try to drown them. Nor do they come off if you try to scrape them on a tree. These things are like all over me. I am absolutely freaking out. I'm lost as a goose. I'm standing there. I'm lost. Oh, I look up. Pub. That way. There's a sign in the tree. Right? I've been sleeping under the sign in the tree. You know, they have those signs up in the tree because it snows 10 feet deep up there. And when they ride around on snowmobiles in the winter, they need the signs like 10 feet up in the tree. So if you're ever in Canada and you're lost, look up. Okay? Look, I go down to the pub. You can imagine what I look like, right? I get there to the pub. Oh yeah, there was a guy in here said he's looking for you. I said, well, where is he? Oh, he's drunk. Here he comes, right? I got the bear up a tree. I got the bear for you. He's up a tree. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I'm telling you what. I took my arrows with me this time. And that guy, he'd get down to my sight. I was glued to him. He couldn't get 3 foot away from me. Finally, he says to me, what are you doing? I says, nothing. He says, get back away from me. I can't hear nothing. I can just hear you huffing and puffing. I'm listening for the dogs. What is wrong with you? I said, I ain't letting you out of my sight. Right? I ain't ever getting lost again. I'm sticking with this guy. We get up there to the tree. Oh, what a beautiful tree. It would have made a great picture. In a big old pine forest, here's this beech tree. This thing is giant. Looks like a big mushroom. Goes up about 50 feet up, and then the limbs pop out above all the pine trees. And there's a bunch of limbs up there. And up there sits a bear that says, like, what in the world am I having a bad day? I think to myself, I'm going to get me a bear. So I shot all my arrows at him, never did hit him. So I gathered them up, shot him at him again. He's getting frustrated. He said, shoot it with this gun. I said, no, I'm going to get him with a bow. So I gathered up my arrows. And boy, I was trying as hard as I could. I never shot at anything 50 feet up the tree. I zinged an arrow up there. I said, zinged another arrow up there. I zinged one up there and it hit him right in the foot. Got him right in the foot. Ow, he says, like that, jumped backwards, lost his footing, fell out of that tree, killed him deader than him. That ain't how I told it for a long time. When I got home, the grand adventure I'd had, lost in the wilderness, didn't concern me none. Buried myself like old Jeremiah Johnson. Right? And I'd killed a big monster deer and a black bear with my bow. Only me and God knew it was an accident. I literally had killed them both by accident. But it got newspapers, it got the magazine, Bow Hunter magazine even, that I'd killed this bear with a bow, and I killed this giant deer with a bow. And you know how it is when you're a young person, it just really fires you up when you have success at something. The next thing I knew, people wanted a bow. They wanted one. So I started building them for people. I'd build one, and then I'd build another one, and then that guy would have friends, and they'd want more. Next thing you know, I was building them as fast as I could make them, just fast as I could build these bows. And I told my parents, I'm going to be a bow maker. I'm going to be a mountain man. Well, at that time in our history, there weren't any longbow makers. You know, that was the compound bow era, and just a few people were shooting longbows. And my mother says to me, son, there aren't any professional bow makers, right? I said, yeah, Fred Bear, he's dead, she said. I said, but there's been a lot of famous bow makers, and I'm going to be a bow maker. She says, son, you need to think reasonable. You got to be reasonable And you've got to conduct yourself responsibly. And you've got to get yourself an education and do something. And the future is in electronics. That's the future. That's where you need to go. You know what? When your parents are paying for your school, you go where you're told. And I come out of school and I started into college and I started studying electronics and electrical engineering. And I started working my way through school and I got picked up by a company called Inland Steel. Anybody ever hear of that company? Inland Steel is a big steel company here in the United States. And they said, if you come to work for us as an engineer when you graduate, we'll accelerate your school and pay you while you go. But you're required to come work for us for 3 years after you graduate. So I signed up for the program, started in school and was getting paid for it. It was wonderful. And in no time at all, 3 years, I was out of there and I got ready to go to work for Inland Steel Corporation. I said, maybe they'll put me out west in the mountains somewhere, or maybe making some steel industry something. Oh no, they said, we got the perfect job for you in an underground coal mine. Inland Steel owned their own coal mines. The mountain man was now working 1,000 feet underground. And friends, there's nothing wrong with coal mining. If you happen to be a coal miner, that's wonderful. And if you like those machines, that's great. But I thought, I've made the worst mistake of my life. I'm going to be stuck 3 years working 1,000 feet in a hole in the ground. And you know, my future didn't look like I wanted it to. And it didn't feel like I planned it to be. And I was just really not in a good place. You know, the worst human condition there is when we lose hope. You see, hope never disappoints us, but the loss of hope always does. And I didn't see any way if things were going to turn out better. I was stuck on a 3-year contract there, and that's the way it was. I was going to have to work there. But Inland Steel, miraculously at that time, wanted to redo their steel mills. And they sold off all the assets, their railroads, their trains, their coal mines, the ore mine. They sold everything to regroup their steel industry. And they sold the coal mine to Orient Coal. And Orient Coal said, you're free to go. So I had one more chance. I said, I'm free for this. I can go be a mountain man. I go to, he said, and the guy says to me, he says, you know, the way you love adventure, the way you love to be, let me talk to you about what you need to do with your future. And I said, I know what I'm doing with my future. I'm finding some way to live in the mountains. I'm going to be mountain man. I'm going to go make bows for a living. They said, you can't do that. You know, when people start telling you can't, that's when you need to give them a swift kick in the cans. But you know, when you're young, you listen to people. And when you're young, you don't know who you should listen to sometimes. And I listened to a guy that said to me, son, as adventurous as you are, you know what you need? You need a good old dose of the Marine Corps. I went and talked to the recruiter, and he made it sound so good. It was great. And the more I thought about it, the more excited I got. I went home and I told my mother and father, I said, you're not going to believe it, what I'm doing. You're not going to believe what I'm doing. And I said to my dad, you're not going to believe it? I joined the Marine Corps. I'm one of the few and the proud, the Marines. I'm going into the Marine Corps. And for the first time in my father's life, he turned white. I mean, he turned white. He didn't say nothing. He just kind of shook and trembled and turned pale, like he was going to puke or fall over something. You see, my dad, he'd served in the Navy on the USS Enterprise. He'd been at Tarawa, Iwo Jima, Okinawa. He was there. He says to me, son, I served on the USS Enterprise, and supply ships would come and supply us because we would go through our supplies about once a month. Supply ships would come. But the troop carriers around us, they carried Marines. They had to be supplied on a weekly basis because they didn't last as long as the food. My father thought I was dead. And he was just about right. I'd made one of the biggest mistakes of my life. God had created me to save people, and Satan had convinced me to kill people. And I was a gung-ho, hardcore Marine. And like all the other Marines before me, and all who would ever come after me, we did the best we could for what we thought was the best there was. And we gave it all we had. It was one of the worst 6 years of my life. Everyone I knew, everyone I served with, they're all gone. Of our unit, 173 men, there's me and Mike Bites. We're all that's left. Every friend I had died. We lasted 31 days in a place called Beirut. At the end of 31 days, we were gone. 2 of us would survive. And I came out of that place and I said, no more. Enough of this with people. Enough of this crazy life. I'm going to the mountains and I'm going to be a mountain man. And I took all my pay, all my leave, and I pulled out of 29 Palms, California, and in true Marine Corps tradition, pulled out the front gate, kicked the rearview mirrors off my car, left them lay there so I wouldn't have to see the place in my rearview mirror. And I went to Colorado and I found a little town called Crestone, population 36 people. It was 75 miles from the nearest town. And I moved 7 miles outside of that town. And I got a little mining claim place there. And I started building. And I started making bows. And God was with me. Though I wasn't with him, he was with me. And a man named Terry Henry won the World Longbow Championship in 1985 for one of my bows. Then he won again in 1987. 2 world championships. And I was inundated with thousands of bow orders. I lived everything I'd ever dreamed I could do. I was in the mountains, in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. I was well known. As you can see, they wrote books about me. I was in all the magazines and all the stuff. People were ordering bows from me. I was 3-year wait if you wanted one to get them. I didn't have any expenses. It was just me out there. I had all the money I needed. And all I did was hunt, fish, and trap, and make bows for a living. Hey everybody, I'd come and put my ladder of success on the wrong blooming wall. I climbed it to find that I hadn't found freedom. I found slavery at the end of that dream. You know, solitary confinement, that's what we do to our worst criminals when we want to punish them the worst. And it's exactly what I'd done to myself. I was 7 miles from anybody, full of hate and anger. Signs up and down the trail leading to my house that I'd kill you and I'd kill you again. You come around there. I had run to the end of my rope. And all I could hear was a voice of a sergeant that served with me. He'd say to me, MR, God is real. And I'd say, Rob, if you talk to me about God again, you're going to meet him. And he knew I was serious. Every day he'd say, I don't care if you kill me. I'm going to tell you every day of my life, God is real. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. I threatened him. I threatened to do everything to him. He wouldn't let me go. Every day he told me, God is real. I was up there in those mountains and I became a guide. And my favorite animal was bighorn sheep. How many of you have ever seen a bighorn sheep? Have you ever seen one? That is a desert bighorn sheep from Ensenada, Mexico. I saw him when he was 4 years old. So I made plans 3 years later and shot him when he was 8. You see, when you see a bighorn sheep at some place doing something, the next year he'll be at that exact place at the exact same time, doing exactly the same thing. If you ever see 2 sheep crack their heads together, write it down. Next year, same place, same time, same two rams, they'll be there. If you see one when he's 4, you'll see him when he's 5. You'll see him when he's 6. You'll see him when he's 7. And my favorite sheep, the nicest one I'd ever found, was on August 13th before season opened. I'd see him every year at 3 o'clock at August 13th. I'd go up the mountains, I'd watch, and he'd come into this little brook, get a drink, and then go on up the mountain. I'd see him once a year on August 13th. Every year I'd go up there and wait for him to come in and see him. One year I was sitting there watching him. I'd been in the mountains then 8 years. I'd been up there 8 years. And that sheep started coming in. And I said to myself, oh my God, God is real. That is not evolution, friends. That sheep had a destiny. His Creator had a place for him. He was there to meet me every year to tell me God was real on August the 13th at 3 o'clock. Finally, my shell broke. I was at the end of my rope. I had my dream, and my dream turned into a nightmare. And I sat there and I looked up and I said, God, if you're real, show me. I expected lightning. Boom. Nothing. Right? Nothing. God, if you're real, show me. He just showed me. He just sent the sheep in, but that ain't good enough, right? That's not enough for me. God, if you're real, show me. I guess I wanted, I don't know, fire, burning bush. How about a Moses deal here? Burning bush or something. Of course, everyone you know, nothing happened, right? Nothing. And I became even sadder than I'd ever known. Because not even God was real. My dream wasn't real. My life wasn't real. I was as close to suicide as I've ever been in my entire life. Everything I'd ever dreamed and hoped for had turned out to be a joke. I thought I could find in creation what only the Creator could give me, which was peace. I come off the mountain to approach my house, surrounded by signs threatening to kill anyone who came around there. People did not show up there. People didn't just walk up there. People in town would tell them, don't go up there, he's crazy. Right? There's a young man in my yard. Man, I'm mad. I don't like finding people in my yard. I come down, what are you doing here? He says, are you Sergeant Hamilton? Stopped me in my tracks. No one called me that for 8 years. I said, I am, and who are you? I'm Rob Copley's brother. And he wants me to come up here and tell you God is real. And he handed me a Bible. I've been living it ever since. August 13th was the day I was born again. You know, if it weren't for a kid with a Bible, where would I be? If it wasn't for a guy that wouldn't let me go, wouldn't give up on me, wouldn't stop until he had convinced me that God was real, where would I be? Each of you has that person in your life to thank for knowing Jesus. You see, on that mountain that day, I experienced the same feeling I experienced when I was 16 years old. I could see my home. I knew the way. I'd traveled it many times. But I was lost. You see, because I didn't know my way home. This world is not our home. Until you know your way home, you'll never know peace. Perhaps you're here today and you don't know the way. Well, I want you to know I've come a long way from Lower Alabama to show you the way. And I've come to take over where Rob left off, to tell you that God is real. And I would love to show you the way home. I want more than anything in the world to show somebody the way home. You know, when you're lost, what do you desire? When you go into the mountains and you hike back, you're going to a beautiful lake. What do you hope for more than anything? That there's no one there. No one. You don't want anyone there. You want that lake to yourself. You didn't hike up in those mountains to be in a crowd. You want no one to be there. But when you come over that hill expecting that lake and there's a timber there and you don't know where you are, and you don't know your way back. Suddenly, you want to see anybody, anywhere. And then you see someone, and you run up to that someone and you say, I came from Crestone. Do you know the way? And he says, I think it's that way. That's not good enough. No, you need somebody that says, I've been there. Let me show you the way. That's what you need. It's not good enough to say, yeah, I think it's that way. Hey, if you've been listening to people who are saying to you, I think happiness is this way. You have a dream. You make lots of money. You do what you want to do. And you'll never work another day of your life. No, friends. That's not the way. I went that way. That's not the way. If you think you can find in this world something that's going to sustain you other than the Creator, that's not the way. I went that way. I went that way, and it wasn't the way. But I can show you the way. Jesus is the way. I'm telling you, friends, Jesus is the way. If there's somebody here today, and you can't tell me the way. Hey, if I asked you, do you know the way to heaven? That's home. That's where we're all going. That's the real world. That's the eternal place, heaven. Do you know the way? If I asked you, do you know the way? Could you say to me, hey, I know the way. I've been there. I met Jesus and He showed me the way, and I can show you the way. Perhaps you're here today and you can't tell me when you met Jesus and He showed you the way. My friends, don't stop where you're at thinking you've arrived, because you haven't. Hey, if you know the way, you'll know it. Hey, the day that you die to your old self and are born again, a new creation in Christ Jesus, and the old passes away and the new comes, and you have a personal relationship and experience with God, and He takes you to heaven, that day you'll never forget. Hey, people say to me, well, when did that happen to you? August 13th. That's when it happened to me. On August the 13th. Can you tell me the day Jesus showed you the way? Have come all the way from Lower Alabama to tell you my story. So maybe, just maybe, you'll let me show you the way. That's all I want, is to show somebody the way. I live, I eat, I breathe, and I sleep to show someone the way. My wife and I, we have no other life but this. We live to show someone, anybody, the way. Our world is surrounded by people who are lost. They think they know the way, but they're going the wrong way. If that person is you today, please stop. Please listen to my story. There's a better way. I pray that hopefully today I can show you that way. You see, people sometimes say, I'm not a sinner. But all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. All of us need a Savior. Archery taught me that lesson. How many of you know the word harmatia? Harmatia, it's Greek. It's the word we translate for sin. It's a system to keep score in an archery tournament. Okay, you shoot at a target. If you strike the center of the target, that's a perfect shot. You have hit the mark. Your sin is 0. But if you hit the first ring around the bullseye, you have missed the mark. And your sin is 1. Second ring, sin 2. Third ring, sin 3. Fourth ring, sin 4. Fifth ring, sin 5. Missed the whole target, sin 10. And the archer with the least sin at the end wins. You see, but no archer arrives at the end of the tournament without any sin. Because no matter how hard he tries, no matter how hard he practices, no matter how hard he attempts to be perfect, he's not. And one day, one time, he shoots an arrow that does not hit the mark. Even though he gave it his best shot, he just missed. That's sin, my friend. Sin is not taking and shooting in the wrong direction on purpose. Sin's when you try to do your very best, but your best just isn't perfect. Hey, and all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Does that make sense now? Arrow going towards the target. All have sinned and fallen short. The arrow just fell just a hair short. The wages of sin is death. Except for Jesus Christ. You see, John the Baptist looked up and said, oh my gosh, here comes the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world. Though your life may be off course, God can have it hit the mark. You see, John the Baptist, the greatest prophet of all, said Jesus, there's never been any like him. None. But yet in Luke chapter 7, we read, he doubted. He sent 2 of his disciples to ask Jesus if he was really the one, or if they should wait for someone else. You see, even the greatest among us, John the Baptist, stumbled. You see, he was in a prison about to be beheaded. And he thought Jesus was going to set up a kingdom and run the Romans out of town. Could it be he was mistaken, he wondered, about this man named Jesus? So he sent his disciples to him to say, are you really the one? And he says, what have you come out to see? A reed blown in the wind? What have you come out to see? A reed blown in the wind. Do you understand what that's about? Go to the Middle East, they have a stalk, a bush that grows up like cane. And when the sun shines on it in the day and it dries out, it wilts over and it leans to the ground. But at night, as the temperature's cool, it rises and it waves in the wind. And the people, for enjoyment, would go out and watch the reed rise and wave in the wind. Jesus' question was, why have you come? To see a reed that waves in the wind? To go home unchanged, entertained by a reed in the wind? Why have you come? To see a prophet? I'm sorry. I'm simply from the dust I came, from the dust I shall return. But I am loved by God. And the God who loves me loves you. And if you just came to see a reed in the wind with no intention of having your life changed, you missed the whole point of this meeting. I didn't come all this way to be a reed in the wind. I come to testify that my God is real. And he reigns, and he's supreme, and he wins this thing in the end. And every knee shall bow, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, either now or later. So friends, let's get it done now. I'm here to tell you, I proclaim this day, Jesus Christ lives. He lives in me. I was there when he saved me. I'm born again, a new creation. The old is gone and the new has come. The hate and anger is no more. The killing is over for me. Now to save some people for the rest of my days, you see. Oh, I was lost, but now I'm found. Jesus, he's the way, the truth, and the life. Follow him. Will you pray with me? Dear Lord, as we pause in this presence, may this meeting not be a gathering of those who wish to see a reed blown in the wind. No, this is about lives being changed. This is about families being restored. This is about addictions being defeated. This is about sickness being overrun. This is about evil turning into good. This is about you moving in our midst and doing what we never dreamed we'd see. Because you are the greatest God that answers prayer and moves in mighty ways and answers his people when they cry for this very day. Now, God, move in our midst. This is our hope. This is our prayer. This is our reason to be here. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. We're about to stand together, everyone, for a hymn of invitation. As we do this song today, if you're here and you don't know Jesus, Lord and Savior, we would love to show you the way. The pastors, local pastors in the area, and their teams are here to counsel with you. If you need prayer today, they want to pray with you. If you need any need spiritual, they're here for you. Your pastors, they're going to be here. They're ready for you right now. They have tents set up. They're ready to meet with you and pray with you and show you the way. We have these men standing by right here in front of you this very moment, this day. If you need to talk to anyone about Jesus, this is it. This is the time. Come, come. Jesus, He's here. He hears you, and He'll leave you forever changed. Don't forget this one thing. May I never speak to you ever again. Let me leave you with this. My God, He's real.
Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in His wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. Turn your eyes to the hillside, where justice and mercy embraced. There the Son of God gave His life for us, and our measureless debt was erased.